if you say you're going to do something and then do it, you're in the top 1% of humanity. What I see out there a lot is people start a business for freedom. They start it for time freedom, financial freedom, and then the business takes away all of their money and all of their time.
Yeah.
If you can buy somebody else's 13 years and start from there, then surely that's more scalable and more interesting.
Hi guys, today on Deciding to Thrive, episode 2, we've got Jeremy Harbour. Jeremy Harbour is a hugely successful entrepreneur living the dream. He's here to talk everything health, wealth, and relationships. Someone who's done a number of IPOs, mergers and acquisitions, and very high level business, and is really here to talk about how to create complete financial freedom as he talks about how he's built his dream life and was an entrepreneur from 15 years old. So Jeremy, welcome to Deciding to Thrive podcast, officially series 2.
Fantastic. Thank you for having me.
So it's a huge honor to have you. So there is so much to go through and so much to learn and so much to share with people. I want to just start at the beginning first and foremost. Where you're from, what inspired you, the sort of trauma, the impetus, everything that happened. So if you can tell us a little bit about.
Yeah, I mean, the origin story could go on forever, and I think, if people kind of Google me, it's the kind of most of the videos kind of cover that kind of origin story stuff. But I guess entrepreneurial upbringing. I grew up on a farm. Farming is seasonal, so the off season they're always looking for side hustles or things to do. So I kind of grew up in this environment where you could just do whatever you wanted, and there was always this other option. And what was interesting is the other people at school, I think they were either going into, public service like civil service, army, military, something like this, or they were going into corporate life. And none of them had this third option of doing whatever you wanted to. So I think that was, in a way, a bit of an eye-opening. It was kind of like, well, everyone else seems to be pre-programmed to do this thing.
Because I agree with you. I think most people are pre-programmed, but how did you see something different?
Well, so actually the main thing was when I came home from school, and my school had like the most relentless hours because it was a boarding school, but I was a day person that went there. So I used to finish at 6 o'clock.
Where was it? What
in
city?
Dorset, in the rural countryside of Dorset, near where the farm I grew up on was. And so we used to finish at 6 o'clock every day, and 4 o'clock on Saturdays. We used to go to school on Saturdays, and I used to meet other people that finished at 3 o'clock and didn't have to go in on Saturdays. So it was a relentlessly long school schedule. But when I came home, if I wanted pocket money, I had to work on the farm, and I got paid £1 an hour. Which sounds like slavery, but actually back then it was, not too crazy.
A pound was decent money.
Not too crazy. Yeah, you could buy a beer and a packet of cigarettes probably for that then. But it was, an interesting motivation, because you're always then thinking, how else could I make £1 an hour instead of giving up an hour? How else could I make £1 instead of giving up an hour of my time? Because the hours are quite finite when you're going to school that much, It was really a quest for how else to make those pounds instead of just giving up what little spare time I had.
So you grew up on a farm, but I want to ask you, was it like a successful farm? Because I mean, if you go into boarding school, that was quite a privilege.
It was, and actually, the whole family clubbed together to make that kind of happen. Grandmas and everything chipped in. No, so I have an unusual story because I was the youngest and an only child and the eldest child, and that pickles a few people's brains. But I basically had an older brother who died. So when I was 10, he was 14, he died. And it was horrible. It completely fucked me up at the time, and actually gave me kind of anxiety for years after that I was next. I'd literally go to bed every night thinking I wouldn't wake up in the morning.
How did he die?
It was just sudden adult death syndrome, they call it, which is like unexplained death, and it's remarkably common. It's like 1 in 1,000 people,
really?
Which statistically is quite a lot.
Just didn't wake up from sleep?
He was out, he was awake, like it was daytime, but just keeled over and stopped working.
Wow. At 14 years old?
At 14 years old, yeah. And of course, when you're a 10-year-old with a 14-year-old brother, your last memory is fighting, yeah? Because that's all 10-year-old and 14-year-old kids do with each other. So it was quite upsetting that I didn't have a positive kind of I love you moment as the last moment, and then of course the anxiety that I would be next, and then my parents had another child, so I became the eldest as well. Okay. So when I was 12, they had another child. So yeah, I have a younger brother, I did have an older brother, and I've been an only child. So I've kind of experienced the
All of it.
the different variants. Yeah.
And I mean that's an incredible amount of emotion and trauma to experience. How did you deal with it? How did you take it?
Like I say, I used to wake up with almost like panic attacks for years. I mean, until I was probably 18, 19, something like that. I mean, I think the one thing it probably did give me was a little bit of an edge to get on with stuff. So I didn't bother with school. I finished when I was 15.
You had more of a value for life and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, treat every day as your last, and one day you'll be right type of thing. You know, it's it gave me a motivation to get on with things, not to sit around. And you know, I started to analyze things in those terms. So, you know, both my parents were the first in their families to go to university. So they were effectively from very working class backgrounds. They went to university. That was what kind of freed them in their lives. And obviously, I think they wanted the same for me. But I didn't want to do A levels because I just saw that as 2 years like entry to university, and then university is another 3 or 4 years before you can actually start life. And I wanted to start now, so I left school when I was 15 to pursue a business that I'd started, which didn't work out, but was a much better education than the education that they had planned for me. And actually, I have a careers officer. I didn't know this until many years later, but I have a careers officer at the school to thank for this, because we all sat down with a careers advisor, and they try and tell you whether you should be a bin man or prime minister. Obviously, if you're really dumb, you can be prime minister. They would sit you down and have this kind of conversation with you, and then your parents would come in and meet with them. And he said, "I've never sat down with a 14-year-old that told me exactly what they want to do. I think you should just let him get on and do it."
Really?
And so they didn't tell me that at the time, but I was surprised how easily I got off the whole I don't want to carry on with school thing. Yeah, I just said I want to quit now and get on with stuff, and they both said yes, and I was like, that was a bit too fucking easy. And I was thinking, and I actually brought this up many years later. Was it because my brother had died, so they were just letting me get away with anything, fuck it, yes to everything, but no, it was this careers guy that basically said to them, no one has ever sat down and told me what they want to do, so maybe you should listen to him. So.
But it's very unique, because back in those days it was really like, I mean, today it's a bit different. There's a lot more homeschooling, there's a lot more openness, there's a lot more kids coming out on YouTube and launching different businesses. It wasn't like that like years ago. Like you used to have to follow the process. I mean, it was really, going to uni was the holy grail at that point, wasn't it?
The gateway to life and career, and it actually had an impact on how much you could earn and things like that, which of course now it's gone completely upside down.
Yeah, totally.
But it's interesting, because when all this technology comes out, the first thing people always say is, oh, well, it's going to destroy jobs. It's going to destroy jobs for people in the traditional sense, but it just creates so much opportunity. I mean, you just mentioned YouTube. I mean, I've met so many multimillionaire YouTubers that I was literally on a yacht with one 3 days ago, making $2 million a month from YouTube, and he's 30 years old, and it just didn't exist.
Well, I think definitely we need to be more aware of skills, skills to learn. It's about learning the right skills for the right thing. The schooling system is antiquated without a shadow of a doubt, and the whole methods it goes. But so you did that. So what was your first business? You said you started your first business at 15.
Yeah, I used to. So I started selling anything I could at school, but a lot of it was like watches and jewelry. So I'd found out how to find or how to get imported watches and jewelry from China and sell it at school. And then because I had all this stock at the weekends, I would do a market stall. So selling stuff. And then I figured out
Sunday mornings or
Sunday Sunday market in Dorset. And basically, I figured that if you buy more of something, you got a bigger discount. So instead of buying the 100 watches that I might sell, I'd buy 1,000 watches, which would give me a massive discount, and sell the other 900 to other market traders. So I started to build a kind of
arbitrage.
Build a little wholesale business around selling them stuff. And so that was basically a trading business. I bought sort of bulk stock and sold it to other people, and then sold some of it myself. So some of it would be on a lower margin, but by a higher volume, and then that would give me a much bigger margin on my own stuff. And so effectively that was the first business, and actually probably would have been quite scalable and everything else, but entrepreneurs always suffer from the shiny new thing syndrome. It's like the grass is always greener type syndrome. And so I bought an amusement machine, and then just suddenly or suddenly got myself into the amusement business. Video games, quiz games, jukeboxes, pool tables, all that kind of
What,
stuff.
in terms of buying and selling them, or you set up a center, or
putting them into pubs and clubs and takeaways. So one of the things I figured out was, MOT centers where you get your car checked. Well, people are sitting in that waiting room for 45 minutes. So we put those quiz games where you can win 20 quid and it flashes away to attract people to play it. And so we were sticking quiz games into MOT centers. There was no competition. No one else was there apart from the coffee machine. And they did really, really well. And you would basically just split the takings with the owner. So the owner had no cost associated. They just had another revenue stream. And I had no lights, electricity, staff or anything. I just drove around once a week and emptied them out. So
how old was you when you started doing this?
17. So I actually probably started when I was 16 because I remember I used to have to get either my granny or my dad to take me to collect first. And then I got my driving license. And so it wasn't my first car, but one of my first cars was a massive fucking van to put these things in. So at the age of 17, I had a huge red Renault Traffic high-top van.
Look, I'm telling you now, we'll be talking about 5-10 minutes. And from 15 to 17, for me, I think you've just given a business masterclass just in understanding how to buy at a discount, to do the arbitrage, to look for the opportunities. I mean, it's really you've obviously had that entrepreneurial knack.
Yeah, I mean,
from a very young age.
This is always the big question: is it nature? Is it nurture? And I think there is a bit of both, because I think people have just an innate passion to do things and to solve problems and to create value. And then I think there's a whole bunch of nurture that then brings those skills out in people, because I think in the wrong environment, they just wouldn't shine through. So you get really entrepreneurial employees, for example, who had the nature but not the nurture. And that's why they're being entrepreneurial employees. Do
you believe in grace? In like a higher power or anything?
No, not really. So
you're more pragmatic.
I think more. I think self is the more interesting way to look at look at all of this stuff. But
then it brings it more in your control. You can.
Yeah, I mean, look. Of course, most things aren't in our control. I think it's incredibly arrogant of us to believe that we control everything. But what you can do, I mean, luck plays a huge part, but you can only win the lottery if you bought the ticket.
Yep.
So there's a huge amount of action that engages luck. So you can't be lucky if you're not playing. So I think there's huge amounts of entrepreneurship come down to luck and chance and things like that. But if you're not in there constantly taking those often micro risks, they're not, it's not like you're betting the farm. But if you're not constantly doing those things, then you don't have that opportunity to let luck in. Luck is hard work, basically.
No, I love that. So it was always pushing outside your comfort zone. So I want to go on to the next thing. But before I do that, I want to understand. What I'm trying to... Was there any kind of like mentor or inspiration that got you to see more? Because what I'm understanding from what you're saying, there was like a pursuit of squeezing the juice out of life.
But
was there any guiding star? Somebody thought, I want to be like him, or I want to learn from him.
When I was a kid, there was two entrepreneurs. It was Anita Roddick and Richard Branson. And, that was it.
He was. I don't know the first. Anita who? Sorry.
Anita Roddick, the Body Shop. So
she was, right. Yes,
she was like the other British kind of entrepreneur, and that was pretty much it. I mean, if you read the papers and there was anything about an entrepreneur, it was one of those two. And
Richard Branson was always chasing the risk and the juice.
Yeah, and to be honest, he created the attention economy 3 decades before the attention economy existed. He was flying hot air balloons and
around the world,
around the world, and racing speedboats across the Atlantic, which basically got him tons of attention, and that attention then translated into business, which of course is almost the entire economy now. The entire economy is driven by attention and influencers and brand and all of those kind of things. And back then, that was incredibly pioneering. And imagine if he'd had the tools of
social
today,
media,
to actually spread that message. He had to get traditional media to cover this stuff, which I guess at the time was less crowded, so easier. But I mean, it was he really nailed it.
So shortly after, so you went, and what I understood is you did your first M&A, or you acquired a telecoms company.
Yeah,
correct?
So I had a telecoms company in the 1990s, and telecoms basically, as a market, expanded very, very quickly because mobile phones miniaturized. They became a mass market product, and nobody had one. So if you walked into a room with 30 people, you had 30 potential customers in that room. So every man and his dog, even your taxi driver, was selling mobile phones. I mean, it just went, it exploded. And then, of course, it got to a point, which took a few years, but it got to a point where everybody had a phone and everybody was in a contract. And then it became more like the insurance business, which is you have to wait for people to come out of contract before you could migrate them over to your service. And so the whole dynamic of the business changed. All the greenfield business had gone and all that fast growth and fun and excitement had gone. And now you had hundreds of thousands of small companies who didn't know how they were going to get revenue next year because everybody already had a phone. So the game then switched into buying each other, consolidation. So basically you were either being bought or you were buying someone else. There was no other game to play. And what I quickly realized is all the reasons why I wasn't the buyer were the reasons I should be the buyer. So all the meetings that I had with people trying to buy my business, I realized they didn't have any money. They didn't know what they were talking about. They didn't really have a clear plan. And I thought, well, I don't really have a clear plan. I don't have any money and I don't know what I'm talking about. I should be on the other side of this desk. And so I treated those acquisition approaches as my education. So I had as many meetings as I could with people that were trying to buy my business. And then I took the bits of their pitches that I liked and I turned that around and went and met other telecoms companies and used, variations of those pitches until I got somebody that capitulated and gave me their company, basically.
I'm got to be honest, I'm a little bit lost for words, astonished. Like your way of processing and learn is incredible. And how old were you when all this happened?
So I was in my early 20s when I did that. So
I mean, now you look back and if you think, and we're in a different world today, can you imagine meeting someone in their early 20s doing that? I mean, that's incredibly like astute, business aware, mature.
This is where the luck comes in a little bit as well, because I mean, it was literally like asking every girl in the bar on a date.
To learn.
And you have 30 slaps around the face and one says yes. And it was very much like that. And I was the most implausible person then as well. I mean, my pitch wasn't very good. I looked really young. When I was in my 20s, I looked like 15, 16. I didn't shave. I mean, I literally looked like a baby face, So I used to then overcompensate by wearing like these 3-piece suits and like fucking driving a sports car. I must have looked ridiculous. And then coming in and giving it the blarney to get people to do something. But basically, I mean, you eventually find the one where they've got their own holy shitstorm of problems going on that makes them a motivated, person.
Seller,
And so your naivety meets their motivation and somehow you find a way through. And once you've done your first one, well, that's the catalyst to doing all the others, because then you have the credibility, the experience,
Totally.
you know what happens next. One of the biggest problems doing your first deal is you can be as confident as you like, but fundamentally you don't know what happens next. You know what the steps in the process are, what forms do you fill out, all that kind of stuff. And all of those gaps in your knowledge will show up as a lack of confidence to the person on the other side of the table. They will see it in every pore of your oozing out of you, basically. But once you've done one, all you ooze is confidence. And so I did my first deal. I did another deal 2 weeks later, and I did it was 11 in 18 months.
In your early 20s?
From the first one, So
20s.
it was literally like a champagne cork popped, and after that, there was no stopping it.
I mean, to have the level of insight to go into meetings with probably much older people, more experienced people, and to keep your mouth shut and kind of just learning and,
That was a weakness, I never kept my mouth shut.
But you learn. I remember when one of my businesses, we were on our first contract, and I remember going in. We'd never done a contract that size, a contracting business, and they were giving us like hundreds of thousands of dollars in the contract, which we'd never got over 100,000 before. And he said, "You're my preferred." He goes, "You're my preferred," and I was like, "Okay, great." And I was thinking, "What does that mean?" Like, okay, great. And he goes, so is there any questions? I go, "No." And I go, "Okay, we'll get the order to you." And I went, Great. I think
Yeah,
we've just
yeah.
won the job. I remember calling my parents going, I think we've won the job. But you got to blag it. You've got to just show up and
Yeah.
like you say, you've got to buy the ticket if you want to stand a chance of winning, right?
Yeah,
and if
yeah.
you're willing to take
and
the
of course,
rejection
and of course, you don't know everything, and you're not going to be able to answer all the questions, and you're going to, screw some things up. But yeah,
it's not like you. I don't know if you had if the internet was out, you couldn't just go online and search on what
No,
to do
you
like you
couldn't,
could today.
unfortunately.
So how
Yeah,
did you
yeah.
find out how to get through the process? Did they guide you? Did you find?
So I
manage
used to go to
find someone else?
networking meetings a lot because
BNI or-
yeah, BNI was one of them. Yeah, yeah. So those horribly early breakfasts. Yeah, yeah. But that was good because I was shit at getting up in the morning, so
Yeah.
that actually kind of gave me
Motivation.
some discipline. Yeah, and they were always fascinated because I was this fucking guy that didn't shave but drove. I had a TVR Tuscan. I don't know if you know this
Yeah, I
car.
remember.
But yeah, this
that was one of
in-
the first supercars. That looked like a Batman car.
Yeah,
years
it was
ago.
it's in the movie Swordfish. If you
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
Google
yeah.
Swordfish
Yeah, yeah, I
car,
love
it looks
Swordfish.
insane.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'd turn up in this thing, which it literally wakes the fucking dead.
Yeah.
Because at 6 a.m. or whatever,
Yeah.
it rattles the windows. So I'd turn up in this three-piece suit. So I was like a point of fascination for people. They really couldn't understand like what this was. And then I used to just turn up to those meetings looking for mobile phone customers. So I was basically just a hunter. I was a salesperson, glorified salesperson. I had, CEO on your business card, but you're basically a salesperson, which I think is where a lot of business people
Business
get
come
kind
from,
of
yeah.
get stuck. And then I elevated the conversation to I'm looking to buy a business. And what was fascinating was that opened more opportunities to sell phones than saying I want to sell phones.
Well, okay.
So walking into that room full of people as a prepubescent 20-year-old, like kind of almost, and saying, hey, I'm looking to, I've got a telecoms company, I'm looking to buy another one. They'd suddenly be like, who the fuck is this that's buying telecoms companies? And that would open up a conversation. And a great example of that is I met the CEO of Costco, the chains.
Costco, yeah.
And so the conversation started with, I'm looking to buy phone companies. And so he, looked at that. And then it moved on to the fact that he was having trouble getting Vodafone or Orange to do a deal inside his shops that would undercut their own retail shops because he has to show that everything in Costco is cheaper.
Yeah.
So they can't, they want something from Orange or something from Vodafone sitting on the shelf that's less than the Vodafone or the Orange shop, comparably. And those brands weren't playing. And I said, I'll do it. And 2 weeks later, we had a pilot open in their Reading warehouse, and then we got the go ahead, and we were opening up in all their stores. And it was
How old are you at this point?
how old?
Yeah.
Like mid-20s.
And but you had, so who financed the stock?
Actually, you don't need that much stock to operate that business. So I mean, we already had our own. We were already doing maybe $1.5 million in revenue at that time. So we already had our own stock and everything else. So and literally, it was like a little kiosk stand. One type of phone, one type of contract, very Costco style to keep it simple,
Yeah, cookie cutter.
So yeah, it was a pretty straightforward business, and I think each kiosk used to sell like 7 to 10 a day or something like that. So
Still a lot of stock
Yeah,
to
yeah,
hold
no,
though per month. I mean, still that's a big contract because they would probably be paying
Yeah,
like
no, I mean-
90 days, 120 days or something.
no. So we sign up the customer, we get paid by the network.
Really?
So,
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so we would get paid straight away by Vodafone or whoever it was.
Oh, amazing! So it's
yeah,
actually a cash producer. Okay, great.
Yeah, yeah.
So then, so that's where it all started. So this is early 20s, and then, I mean, I know you've done a number of you went into IPOs, advising on IPOs, and M&As. So what was I mean, what happened to those earlier businesses, and then when did you transition?
Yeah, so telecoms was where I cut my teeth on acquisitions. And then I realized actually, because I'd learned it organically, so I'd kind of done it the wrong way round. If normally you go into M&A through investment banking or legal, the legal side or whatever, because I'd done it from a kind of entrepreneurial position. And I dealt with owner-managed businesses. That was quite a unique skill, because if you do an MBA, you learn how Budweiser bought, Anheuser-Busch or whatever, so there's, or Anheuser-Busch bought Budweiser, but there's you learn about some big M&A deal that really doesn't teach you how to buy Dave's Plumbing or
But you probably
one of those type
understand
of businesses.
the entrepreneur's problems as well.
Yeah,
wouldn't you?
so I'd kind of come at it from a very different angle. And so I guess the first epiphany was buying that first business, because that was, you don't have to run the marathon. You can just run the last 10 yards. You still get the medal, So don't do the blood, sweat, and years of running a business. That business was 13 years old. And for us, it was a year's worth of sales. and we got a year's worth of sales in an afternoon, and we put zero capital into the transaction, so it cost us nothing. And we grew by a year's worth of sales. So that was a kind of a big epiphany. But then I grew by buying lots of other companies quite quickly and realized that actually just doing lots of acquisitions like that is also a lot of my management time. So the next epiphany was the kind of how to shift from working in the business to on your business, which is very easy to say and very hard to do. And so there was a whole bunch of learnings around extracting myself from the business. Actually, most of it was a dose of humility, that you don't actually add as much value as you think you do, and you should just trust other people to deliver those things. And then the next big epiphany was selling a business. So you don't make money running businesses, you make money when you sell them. And so the exit was a huge breakthrough, because it was the first time in my life I had capital, and it was the first time in my life I had time. And when you have time and capital at the same time, I mean, you can be super fucking dangerous. You can get divorced by a sports car, get a good drug habit or whatever, or you can double down on the entrepreneurial shit and really excel, because you're the only guy with the time and the money. That was like a huge kind of epiphany. And then, after that, I just focused on buying and selling businesses. I did lots of distress deals, like you say, took a company public in 2016. We've taken nearly 100 companies public now through various methods, IPOs, direct listings, reverse mergers, reverse takeovers, all sorts of things.
I want to rewind, because you've gone through so many, there's such great value and wisdom. I mean, it's real gold in who you are. It's massive credit to you. So the first company, you said you got with no money down, and you doubled the turnover, right?
No, so that company, it was 13 years old. It had about 1,000 active handsets, and as a business at that time, we would probably add about 1,000 active handsets over a 12-month period to our business. We were selling 85.
You already had that. You had more distribution or something. You had.
Our existing business was doing like 85 connections a month, let's say, and this company had 1,000. Right. So by acquiring that company, we automatically got that 1,000. It was like a year's worth of sales, but without waiting a year.
So how did you get it with no money down, though?
So necessity is the mother of invention. People always say, how do you buy a business with no money? I said, well, first start with no money. Because you find yourself having to find a way to make it work. And in this particular circumstance, I was offering to pay over 6 months using the profits that we would generate from moving these customers over. They wanted it up front. I had a choice of paying my credit card or my staff, so that wasn't an option. I couldn't give them the money. And so the conversation just went on, basically, that it's nothing. No, I want this. No, it's nothing. I want this. And basically we got to the point where he just said, yeah, fuck it. Okay, let's do it.
He wanted out more than
he wanted out. He had other things that he was focused on. The lease was coming up on his building, so literally they were going to demolish the building that it was in. So that was a line in the sand that was approaching. And small businesses just don't sell. It's very, very hard to sell a small business, because if you're a big business, you can't buy a small business because of all the due diligence you have to do. So the due diligence often costs more than the business.
Right.
And so there's not a kind of natural market for these small businesses. So people go to a broker. The broker says, yeah, I can get you this, I can get you that, but they never can. I mean, only 8% of businesses that list with a broker sell. And I think most of those are because they're desperate to sell. Like they've got some disease or they've died or something like that. And so they just take any offer that comes along. So it really is a buyer's market. And that's the case today very much. So if you go and buy owner managed businesses, sub 10 million, ideally sub 5 million, there's hundreds, thousands of them.
I think a lot of businesses at that level, entrepreneurs tend to get into a business by like a skill set they've got nearly by, I'm going to say by accident, like they don't know how to run a business. So it's not systemized. This is a big point that I really work on teaching on. It's interesting because I spent a lot of time with Tony Robbins. Have you done any mentorship programs or anything?
No, obviously I'm very, very aware of Tony Robbins, seen lots of his content in the past. So yeah.
So he gives this big story in like a private business mastery finance trip that we do with him. And he spoke about buying a business in 7-year cycles. So you mentioned like 13 years, right? He says businesses work in 7-year cycles. And he says, instead of starting a business, find one that's 7 years old. It's got staff. It's got like run operations. You can always go in and optimize and systemize and do certain things. It's much cheaper and better that way. So that was really interesting. So, so fast forward. So you've you've done the telecom acquisition. You got into, what was the next stage? Was it IPO or what was
Yeah,
it?
so I sold the telecoms company. Another company that I had that was doing really well went bust, and that was a really good lesson as well. Because the reason I kept it was it generated loads of cash, and so I thought that was a keeper. But actually, that was the reason to sell it. It generated loads of cash. It had one big customer, which is AIG Insurance, which was the largest insurance company in the world, that went bust.
Right.
During the global financial, it was the beginning of the global financial crisis. So, the reason I didn't sell it is because it had a 3-year contract with the world's largest insurance company, and that's the reason I should have sold it.
But
Yeah,
you didn't. But couldn't you have got other similar clients?
no, again, as the economy fell off a cliff, biggest customer goes bust. New customers aren't spending money on that kind of thing. So
Right.
everybody's contracting instead of expanding. So there were multiple lessons. To client concentration is always a dangerous thing, but you always think, oh,
mean, you couldn't
it's
have
okay,
you
it's
couldn't have seen
okay.
that
They're
coming.
AAA rated. Well, but you could have sold it.
But
And I'm not
if
saying you should have sold it because it was going bust. I'm saying you should have sold it because you should always sell your business. That's how you make money.
Is that what you're saying right now? If you had a very like a cash cow business now, you wouldn't keep it, you'd sell it.
Yeah, the right time to sell a business is now.
Right. And then so what do you do with then you get a lot of cash? Then
Yeah, so what you'll find is you can actually deploy the cash from selling your business into income generating assets, and you can generally generate more income from those investments than you were taking
what would
out of the
that be?
business in the first place.
What property?
So I don't like real estate. It's very illiquid and cyclical, and the rental yields are too squeezed. But I mean, there are some REITs that could work if you want real estate, which is kind of a more liquid version of real estate.
Yeah.
There are lots of regulated funds that you can invest in that you can get double-digit returns on, private credit funds and those kind of things. There's loads of stuff in the kind of wealth area. We have a wealth section in my Harbour Club community, and one of the things we talk about is using fixed coupon notes, which are a derivative, like an options strategy. And again, you can get 15 to 20% returns on some of those. Prop trading funds as another one that can have quite nice returns. So obviously that whole wealth thing could go on for hours and hours. But the first thing you need to do is to get into the private banking space, because if you're a retail bank customer, and that's not the retail banks that put private on your card like Citi Gold and things like that, a real private bank. So for example, if you Google my name and Julius Baer, so Baer, you'll see there's a video that I did with Julius Baer, and they're a private bank. They're the largest private bank in Switzerland, and they give you rich people products, basically.
Yes.
But
so what's the minimum barrier to entry to that?
You need 3 million cash to open an account there, so you need to sell a business first. That's why it's a good time to sell a business now, to have that opening deposit. But then all of a sudden you get access to a much more interesting set of products and investments, and like I say, you can use very, very cheap leverage with them as well. And so, you can normally make the cash from the exit outperform the business itself. So you no longer have to work, you've de-risked, and you're getting more income every year than you were when you had the business. And so that then becomes very scalable to allow you to go out and look for other things. And that's exactly what I did. I went out and started buying and selling companies. And because it was the global financial crisis, everything was distressed. So everything was a pound. So I did lots of no money down deals with distressed companies at that time.
I think that this is a bit of luck as well, because you're in the right place at the right time and you saw the right thing.
Yeah. Although, I mean, that was in the UK, because that was where I was living at the time. I've lived all over the world, but that was in the UK. And I think the UK is in a similar situation now. Yeah, very, very high levels of bankruptcy. Interest rates are high, inflation is high. National insurance has just gone up. That's really squeezing small businesses. So I think there's a lot of opportunities in that area right now.
Really interesting. So you touched on Harbour Club, because it's a kind of good transition. So what I know, one of your main things that you've put together is the Harbour Club. You can tell us a little bit about that, because I know you help people IPO, M&A, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, so back in sort of 2008 or so, I'd done quite a few deals, and so people were approaching me all the time to come and work for them, like an M&A advisor type thing, and I couldn't figure out why I would do that. So I then bought a training company, and figured out actually this is a great way of dealing with those inquiries, is to train them on how to buy owner managed businesses, because it's an misunderstood area. And actually, since when we first launched, our first customers were people like KPMG and Tesco's and people like that, because at the time, a lot of tech businesses are owner managed. They're small businesses. And of course, if you're Tesco's and you want to buy some technology, they're hiring Goldman Sachs to go and find them a $1 million revenue tech company, and so they're spending $2 million on identifying a target, $2 million on doing some due diligence, and only to be told, no, it's too small, you shouldn't buy it. Whereas actually they want that technology. So so we were educating people on the basis of, this is how you buy an owner managed business. This is what it this is the kind of structure. And anyway, we launched it in 2009. We've now got about 4,000 members all around the world. We have an educational part of it and a community part of it. And the community is probably where most of the value comes from, because that's where if you want to learn French, go live in Paris. If you want to learn M&A, hang out with a bunch of people that's all they talk about. And so we do live events. We have one called Deal Fest every year, where it's literally 3 days of case studies from members talking about deals that they've done. So, lots of people have jumped on this bandwagon since 2009, because acquisition entrepreneurship has become quite a popular topic. But it's the blind leading the blind. It's a bunch of people that have never done deals or have done a couple of deals that are then trying to teach people how to do deals. Whereas we've got this amazing community, hundreds of deals behind me, and then thousands of deals behind the members of the community. And so we have 300 hours of content in the app. That we have our own app. There's 300 hours of content in there of deals that people have done, where you can, if you've got a deal with property, here's a load of property deals, if the business owns its own real estate, for example, or here's a load of deals that went public, or here's a load of deals in, whatever, e-commerce, you can find pretty much anything that you're interested in doing. You can find a case study about it. So it's...
So I've got a couple of questions to ask you, right? And I'm going to go on to this new kind of acquisition style that I believe you've got. Right, that you've sort of set up more recently, I think. I know Ben was telling me about it, so I'm really interested. But before that, give me one example of a deal that was been done through your community, like with some numbers that you could, like something that springs to mind that you could, just as an example of the kind of stuff that's done.
There's literally, I interview probably one a week, and that's only because I don't have enough time to do more of them. But I mean, there was one recently that's done 3 SaaS companies. They're
SaaS
generating
is software
as a service. And so SaaS businesses are quite hard to buy typically,
because
there's a lot of
all
competition.
Pretty much profit, isn't it? Well, I mean, once you're up and running, it's...
so they're doing £6 million a year of revenue, 4 million of profit across the 3 companies. I mean, a specific one actually, which is it's a really boring business. It was a chrome plating business. So where you dip stuff and chrome plate it. The business, it owned its own real estate. It was like a small industrial park with this factory on it. It was the real estate was valued at 1.1 million pounds. The business was generating 200 grand a year of profit, and there was 200 grand in the bank in cash in the company. And the guy selling it wanted 1.7 million for it, and had advertised it with brokers for the last 2 years. And all anyone would do is they would come and they would say, okay, well, we can mortgage the property and get 800 grand. We can take the 200 grand cash out of the bank and give you $1 million. And then we'll put 100 grand of our own cash, or 200 grand of our own cash in, so we can get you to 1.2. And the guy was saying, I want 1.7 because it's doing 200 grand a year. It's got 1.1 of property and it's 200 grand in the bank. I want 1.7. And he was 70 when he started the sales process. 2 years later, he's 72. His wife was 40. So he's 72. He's got a 40-year-old wife who'd much rather be chrome plating her than, than somebody's bumper. So basically, the Harbour Club had just said, "I'll give you your 1.7. But I'm going to pay you over the next 7 years from the operating profits of the business." And he said, "No, my accountant has said no. You've got to put some money up front. Other people that are coming are mortgaging the property to give me some money up front." And he said, "Yeah, but if I mortgage the property and then I fuck up the business, the bank is going to take everything away, the company and the property. If you take the same security that the bank would, then if I fuck it up, you just take it all back and you've still got the 1.1 million of property there. So I'll be the safe pair of hands. I'll take it over. I'll run it. I'll get you your full 1.7 million. but I'll pay you over the next 7 years. And obviously, you have to build some rapport and some trust to be able to execute that. But there was a deal fatigue, trying to sell it for 2 years, not getting anywhere near his asking price. There was an element of security in that, well, okay, I can have a charge over the business and the real estate. So if this guy screws up and doesn't make a payment, I can take it back and I keep all the money that he's paid me to date. So if he gets 2 years in, he's paid a third of it, and I get the whole thing back.
Yeah.
And I get to go spend time with my wife tomorrow.
Yeah.
Instead of another 2 years of pissing around trying to sell it. And so that's an example, a very simple one. So
I think that's brilliant. I think understanding the security element of putting the charge, and also understanding the man and ego. If he was so hell bent on the number, you're actually going, hey, I'll give you what you want.
Yeah.
It might not be exactly the way you want it, but you're going to get what you want.
So there's an expression we often use in the Harbour Club, which is, you name the price, I'll name the terms.
Yeah. I love that.
Because it's all about the terms.
Yeah. Well, because it's no money down. It's self-financing, exactly. So you can't lose. And again, if you back yourself to add in systems and to optimize the business, you could pay it off in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Or have a lot of extra free cash flow, or however you want to slice it. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So, okay, so let's go into now this. All I know, I was out with Ben the other day, and he was telling me all the business stuff that he's doing, and they've just acquired a company. And we didn't go to the ins and outs, but it was a pretty big company. I don't know, he's doing a lot of commodities trading and stuff like that. And he said, we've used Jeremy's new process.
Mm-hmm.
So, something along those lines. So tell me, because when I first met you a couple of years ago, was it a couple of years ago on your boat? I think it was.
Yeah, it must have been.
But and the main thing was taking companies IPO. At least that's what we were speaking about at the time.
Yeah.
You were looking for good companies to take
and that's our day job. So we take roughly a company public every month, in one way, shape or form, and that keeps us very busy. So we've just taken a 3D TV company public. In fact, you must come on the boat again, have a look at one. We've got one. There's not many of these TVs in the world, but it's a TV. You watch it, no glasses, everything is popping out of the screen in 3D. It's insane. It's almost like you're having some mental breakdown or something. It's really hard for your brain to compute at the beginning, and after a while you realize it's native 3D. It's incredible. So we just took them public. We've just taken an education group of companies public. We've got a marketing group of companies going public this month. We're that's still our main thing. We now have a regulated fund in Singapore that supports that activity, and we're building a bit of an ecosystem around that activity. And that's sort of very scalable. On the Harbour Club side of things, we've obviously got the community, and we also the fund is kind of a done for you version of the Harbour Club, because it's a way of participating in the transactions and just earning a passive income.
What sort of return do you guys?
It's like 15% a year, paid monthly. So you get like a monthly income. So again, this is an example of something you could do that would probably generate more than the business was generating in cash. So that's the kind of done for you service. Then we have a done with you service, which is like advisory. So we put somebody on the board of a company to help them identify businesses and acquire businesses. Normally they're competitors, but it could be anything. And then we have the Harbour Club, which is like the do-it-yourself community. So you have do it yourself, done with you, and done for you.
Is it like a non-exec director you put on? Or?
Yeah, basically, yeah. So a deal advisor that works with the company. We supply them with, or we help them with the sourcing of opportunities, how to hold the meetings, how to structure the deals. It's basically holding their hand through that process of doing their first acquisition, so that
it helps. We were talking before how you first learned. It's the blind leading the blind, and it's like if you've got enough, if you like, confidence, or the other person's in enough pain, right? But something I learned from Tony Robbins, right, is when someone's got certainty, the person with the most certainty will win, and will influence the other person. So if these guys are going into deals and they've got you holding their hand and setting up the structure, they start to dominate the frame of the conversation, don't they? Completely.
Yeah, exactly. It's it's that confidence that they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing. I think the thing that you're alluding to with Ben is our WIBO structure, which is just, we have 14 different deal structures on the Harbour Club of how to buy businesses, and it's just one of them. And it's basically the idea of, that expression, how do you eat an elephant? And it's one mouthful at a time. Yeah. Most people, like with this chrome plating company, are trying to buy the whole company in one go. And there's a little bit of a leap in terms of convincing them to let go of the whole company in one go and just be paid over a long period of time. It's like going into the Ferrari dealer and saying, give me that one, but I'm going to pay you over the next 3 years. They're just going to tell you to fuck off most of the time. So what you do with the YBO strategy, it's called work in buyout. So you work in the business to buy it out. And so you typically go and offer some added value or solution. So if you're great at marketing, go in and do their marketing. If you're great at creating funnels, go in and create their funnel. If you're great at coaching, go and be a coach or a mentor and take an equity slice for doing that. So whatever service you bring them, and we, in the Harbour Club community, we have lots of education around financial engineering and profit improvement, cash flow improvement, things like that. So you can bring those kind of services in there. You can even do preparation for sale. So setting up their data room, getting their information memorandum put together, doing all the stuff around making them a more sellable business, and in exchange for that you take an equity stake, and that's the first mouthful of the elephant. Because you're now a shareholder in the business and you've delivered something of value, and so many people don't deliver anything of value that it's an incredible rapport builder. So if you say you're going to do something and then do it, you're in the top 1% of humanity, because most people don't. Then basically you can go back and ask for the rest of it.
It's interesting. I'd like to see that in practice, because for me, my experience of smaller businesses is they're either family setups or very close partnerships. So getting into the equity, to the cap table, it's like
it just has to be a no-brainer. So if it's if the 70% or 80% that they're left with is worth twice as much as it was, twice as much as the 100% was.
But would they want to sell afterwards, like the other pieces?
No, I mean, normally, I mean, for a start, the next bite is going to be worth more, so they're going to get more for their business than they had before they met you. Normally, if the conversation has started from an exit, and this is the part, you're not really ready to exit yet, but if I do this and this and this, you will be. And, traditionally the pitch is kind of, you give me a stake in the business, we're going to sell it together, or I can buy it off you. And then, in their mind it's okay, we'll go find a buyer afterwards, and it just might be you, So I think that's the deal he's done, that he's talking about. Yeah.
So one of the things you were saying is that to me the other day, we were talking, is it's much better to, and we've been talking along these lines of acquiring a business. Like we were talking about really lifestyle businesses, right? Because I think I'm the product of a family that started a family business. I mean, we've broken up as a family, or at least I've broken up from them as a family, right? But we started a family business to make money and essentially to have freedom. I mean, I've got lifestyle businesses myself, so I understand that. I've gone through, like you talk about, working on the business instead of in the business, right? But when people start a business, it becomes their baby. Or it starts off as their baby. Then they have a big challenge of stepping back, and then the world actually becomes the business. The business takes over the family, and then they're trapped in the business. Whereas when you understand lifestyle businesses, really what you're saying is the business is there to serve us as a lifestyle, which is what I believe a business should do. Business is there to generate some income and to give you the
Although what I see out there a lot is people start a business for freedom. So they start it for time freedom, financial freedom, and then the business takes away all of their money and all of their time. So they're actually more prisoners in the business. They haven't had a proper holiday. They haven't.
They sacrifice their health. They sacrifice loads of stuff.
Everything. And so sometimes giving them that escape route, or giving them an off ramp, can be just like all their Christmases came at once. It can feel like a huge blessing for them
if they're able to step back from it.
I mean,
it becomes their identity.
There's an emotional part of it.
But what you were talking about the other day is that people don't really need to start a new business. Way more costly to start and challenging to start a new business than it is to acquire a business. And
I think during that startup phase, there's like 3 years at the beginning that you never get back. You're not paid for it at the end. It's the blood, sweat, and years thing. It's all effort and no reward. And then you hit a tipping point where it starts to get a bit easier, and that's really where the business starts. If you don't fuck it up in the first 3 years, you're probably okay for the next 10. But that's 13 years of your life. Well, how many blocks of 13 years do you have? in your life. You know, if you think about the first 20 years being pretty useless and the last 20 years being pretty useless, you're lucky if there's 2 or 3 goes in the middle of all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically, if you can buy somebody else's 13 years and start from there, then surely that's more scalable and more interesting. And look, even if the business you're thinking of starting is some AI, idea you had in the shower this morning, what business could you buy that has the right customers for that product, so that you're starting with a website, customers, revenue, staff, and then injecting this new idea into those customers? Because anything you could think of starting, you could probably start from 500 miles down the track instead of from 0.
I love that as an idea. I never actually think about that. But what you're saying is you could take, even if you're on the lines of AI, you could take a conventional business, but then merge it and
execute whatever the
AI is supposed to do.
idea you had in the shower this morning was.
Amazing. And how would someone find those kind of opportunities?
Yeah, they're everywhere. So I mean, basically, the first thing to do is just kind of try and identify what it is you're buying. And we have so many different people come through the Harbour Club. So some people have a business and they're looking to buy more of the same. Some people have a business and they're looking to vertically integrate. So, buy the supply chain up or down the supply chain. Some people have sold a business or don't have a business anymore, but perhaps used to have one and don't want to go through the startup phase again. Other people are doing coaching or consultancy, but don't want to keep trading time for money. So they want to create equity value instead. So some people have been in real estate, but are worried about the real estate market falling off a cliff and want to diversify, or want to use M&A as a way of getting cheap real estate. So because there's often real estate hidden in the balance sheets of companies that can be quite good value. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of different reasons why people would be doing it. So there's a whole bunch of different ways you would then find those opportunities. But generally speaking, if you identify the type of company you want to be, if it's an air conditioning company, for example, well, there's a finite number of air conditioning companies, go find them all and just start having conversations with the owners of air conditioning companies. And if you speak to all of the owners and build rapport with them and understand their opportunities, their challenges, what's going on in their sector and everything else, you'll start to see the stars lining up. Basically, you'll start to find opportunities within that sector.
I love that. I want to switch gears away from business now, because for me, and I know you're at on a personal level, you're living a great life. You're in great shape, lovely wife, lovely kids. How do you bring it all together? You've got this huge business on one side, and we're talking again about how people sacrifice. They want freedom, but they don't have it. How you've been able to build the freedom on a couple of things. On with you, I'd like to know about your relationship with your wife. Like how that's. You only been married the once, so
yes.
Right. So how you've been able to keep that a success? Obviously, having young kids, having a business, and then also moving to Dubai. Like also the impetus of like what brought you to Dubai and how you find life here as well.
Yeah. So look, I think there's a lot to unpack in all of that. I mean, look. I can't remember when I read the 4-Hour Work Week, but it was a new release at the time. So it must be 15, 20 years ago. It's a good while ago, isn't it? And I remember reading the 4-Hour Work Week. And whilst I had no intention of building a drop shipping online type, e-commerce business, this fundamental concept of building your lifestyle and then having the business fit around it was a massive penny drop for me at the time, because I was very much living in the town where my businesses were, going into an office every day. And if I really if I really stood back and looked at that, that was completely senseless. That wasn't what I wanted to be doing. I didn't need to put a suit on every day. I didn't need to go to an office every day. I just wanted to do deals. I'm a deal junkie. I just want to talk to people and make these deals happen, and that's the bit that gets me excited. So why don't we just whittle it down to that core competence and just do more of that, and stop with the shiny new thing syndrome and focus on the deals. And so that was the kind of lifestyle first moment. And I actually did a really silly bet with someone. So we were watching the World Cup, and this would have been in 2006, I think. We were watching the World Cup. And I'm not a massive football fan, but don't mind watching England. And this was like England was playing, but we were watching it in King's Cross, I think it was, in London. And So I made a silly bet with a friend of mine on the game that we were watching, and whoever lost had to live in the country that won the World Cup. So basically I lost, and Cameroon were doing really well, but Italy won. And so I just went and lived in Italy for 3 months because of this bet. And at the time I employed 155 staff. I had 12 businesses. And so as an exercise in working on your business, it was really good because I had to figure out all the things that I needed to be there for. Now, bear in mind, back in the day, you had to write checks to people. So how do I, I need to make my CFO a signatory on the bank account. I need to do this. I need to do that. Like all of these kind of things I had to do in order to be able to leave the country for 3 months and sit in Italy. And I chose a town called San Remo. I actually thought I was going to San Marino, but San Remo's lovely. It's only 20 minutes from Monaco, and it's a beautiful place. But literally went there, stayed in a hotel for 3 days while I looked for an apartment, rented an apartment, and stayed there for 3 months. Learned a bit of Italian, ate far too much food. Did my work from there. And that was if I was a management consultant, I would actually get entrepreneurs to do this, just to hone that working on their business muscle, because it really does help. And you also realize that you're not as important as you think you are. You feel the whole thing's going to come crashing down if you're not there. And when it doesn't, it's quite a humbling moment.
Well, there's a couple of things that, firstly, one thing I can't let you get away with that I have to say. You started by saying, if you promise to do something and you do what you say you're going to do, you're in the top 1%.
Yeah.
I mean, to do all of that and to trust your CFO to be a signatory and do it off of the back of a bet over a football match, I think it shows remarkable integrity.
I mean, us British have a thing about silly bets. We have to do.
Well, not everybody does. Listen, a lot of people back out. Listen, you've got to give yourself the credit because, again, you're very, for me, Richard Branson-esque. I mean, that's the sort of thing that I would see like a Richard Branson.
I guess a very tame version, but living in Italy is not exactly a punishment, is it?
But you saw it as an opportunity, as an excitement. But look, there's a lot of people that go, I didn't really mean it. I've got 12 companies to run. I couldn't. Someone could easily back out.
Yeah, you can easily wriggle out of anything, can't you?
Yeah. And what was the other thing you said something after that that I wanted to say to you? You said so you went to Italy. Oh, it's just gone from my head. This is old age now. It's catching up with me.
But I guess where I was going with that was the first thing is obviously then putting that lifestyle first, and then figuring out, okay, what's my ideal day? Start with that blank sheet of paper. Get up in the morning. What do you want to do? Where do you go next? What do you do next? Okay, now fit everything else around that, because your ideal day isn't generally fly in a private jet to a massive fucking yacht, drive a Ferrari. None of those things ever appear. It's always have a massage, go to the gym, eat some healthy food with a nice view. It's those are the kind of things that make up the perfect day, not the kind of material chaos kind of stuff.
I had a mentor that taught me. He said, "Design your life." And so, and by the way, again, these are conversations that don't happen in school, right? And I sat down. I went, "What is my perfect day?" And when I thought, well, unlimited money, unlimited time. What do I want to do?
Yeah.
And I'm living that life now, by the way. But I even had on there deal with a couple of clients a day because I want to have some purpose.
You want to do something.
If you went, well, I could do whatever, and you go here and you do that, and it's, well, then what? And so it's nice to have that interaction, the connection to be about something.
Yeah, and to solve some problems for people or whatever. So so that was the thing, was designing the life, and then the relationship side of things. I guess most of the people that I dated when I was younger, they weren't ready. I wasn't ready. I think men mature much later than women. Yeah. So we're children until we're at least 40, some of us forever. So with women, I think there's more of a desire for them to fix that kind of earlier on. I basically, my parents have been together for 55 years. They're a good role model for me for a proper nuclear family kind of structure. And so I wouldn't want to enter into something temporary. I wouldn't want to get married and then get divorced. I don't treat it like dating. And also, I'm a contracts guy. You know, I buy and sell companies, and contracts are only as good as the people who sign them ultimately. So I've entered into numerous contracts where people have reneged, and it's a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
And probably the most important contract you can enter into in your life is your marriage. Like most contracts, like contracts in business, you sign it once, but you have to work at it all the way through the lifespan of that business. Otherwise, the other party to the contract starts to get disgruntled about you as their co-partner in that agreement. So boiling it down just to pure rational business bollocks, I think treat the marriage in the same way, which is you have to constantly be adding value, and you have to treat it as the most important contract you're signing. So, you know, get it right the first time, or at least get it right the second time, you know, but don't be a serial, you know, marrier. If it's coming up to the third time, maybe you're not very good at it. Maybe you need to address some of the core principles. And actually, an entrepreneur, it wasn't an entrepreneur I spoke to, it was someone I was reading about who did deals. He was another deal maker, but kind of a London city deal maker, so big deals. And he actually wrote, it was an article in the Times, that he didn't trust anyone that had been divorced more than twice. He wouldn't do business with them because they're just bad at contracts, basically.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it does kind of make sense. And so picking one, I was, I had to wait until enough time had passed. And, you know, so I matured a bit because I would have been a terrible husband in my 20s and 30s. I had too much to get out of my system. So the timing had to be right, I think, was the first thing. And then finding someone who's responsible enough, because most of the girls that I had dated previously were, you know, mad or hedonistic or not messy or whatever. So finding somebody that was also, you know, life material going forwards, I think was also an important factor. And then once you decide, and it's done, and you have to work at it, you have to stick at it. But we have a wonderful family. We have 2 kids. We have a great lifestyle because we build our life around lifestyle. I mean, I'm talking to you now at the end of summer, so we just had 2 months of, you know, we were just on a big yacht cruising the Croatian coast. Before that, we did a road trip through Liguria in Italy, like Portofino, that sort of Cinque Terre and all that sort of area. Before that, we were in Lugano, Switzerland, Como. Before that, we were in Bordeaux, and we took the kids to Disney in Paris, and we were in Paris. So, you know, we've had this 2-month summer because Dubai is a little bit toasty. And now kids are back at school. We're back. We've got this small window because I'm going to the Maldives next week. You're going to somewhere next week as well.
I'm going to the US.
The US, yeah. So we've got this.
Not as glamorous as the Maldives, but I'm listening to you reel off all these cities, right? And it's like everyone is like the most glamorous and like luxurious that people go to, and you're just gone. We'll just do all of them across the side.
Yeah, I mean, the Maldives for a lot of people is that honeymoon thing or that once in a lifetime thing, and we do go 3 or 4 times a year. So, but we lived in Singapore for 12 years, and so the Maldives is only like 3.5. I mean, it's close to here as well. So that was kind of a go-to place for us. And I got engaged in the Maldives. So that's kind of a bit
So
special.
I want to ask you something. I don't know if this is going to get you in trouble or not, right? But you're comparing the marriage to a contract, right? So, and you said you had to pick the right one. So did you have like a vetting process like you would have like you would have for a company? You know, when you look at a company.
No, but I mean,
do you have like
of course you have a wish list. And I think one of the things you realize, because I got married when I was 40, like officially, but we were dating for a bit, but you know, heavily dating before that, living together.
Did you meet in Italy, by the way? Or
no, not that was many years before, but I think also she knew what she wanted as well, which was really helpful because sometimes guys do just need a bit of direction, and the worst thing is somebody that kind of flips and flaps, and also the whole this whole kind of if you've done something wrong, they just go quiet on you instead of saying what it is. And all this. So I really appreciated my partner's directness in everything.
She gave you feedback on what she
told me exactly what she's thinking.
Men need that, I think, by the way.
And also the guidance around, okay, let's do another 6 months, then let's get engaged, then let's have a kid, and it's like, yeah, I could go with that. That's a good plan. So actually having that kind of roadmap laid out confidently by someone was really, really helpful in kind of not just being wishy-washy and flapping around for a few years unnecessarily, you know. So yeah, it's kind of.
I've got one of my other close mates, very
partnership.
close mates, who's got a successful marriage, and funny enough, his dynamic was very similar.
Right. Yeah.
Like she met, and she was like, "Listen, we're gonna I want you to be intentional. Basically, I'm looking to get married. We're gonna do this, and this is the structure." And he was like, "Okay, great." And I think that for a man, it calls out the man in you to provide it and step up
Exactly.
to the table.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And yeah, it's no regrets. Like I say, it's always work. You have to keep delivering. It's like I say, it's like like in a business relationship. If you went 50-50 with somebody in a joint venture, and then you just fucked off and did nothing, that joint venture is not going to last very long.
Yeah.
And so you have to keep showing up. You have to keep doing stuff. You have to keep prioritizing. Otherwise, it's not going to work, and it's exactly the same.
So I've got two more questions to close off because we're coming to the end. Number one, schooling. Okay, so how old are your kids now?
10 and 8.
10 and 8. What is you coming from the way that you've come up from like coming out of school early, going into business at 15, and also where the world is today? What's your thoughts on schooling and homeschooling and just generic, with your kids? How do you see that panning out? What's your ideal kind of model?
Yeah, before you have kids, you obviously think that school is pointless and that you should homeschool them, or you should have some clever, tutors, or you should use some one of these mad kind of campus type schools that's run by Elon Musk or something like this. When you have kids, you realize it's childcare. It's not education. And that was the big aha moment for us, which is school is to get the kids out the house long enough for mummy and daddy to have some time together and for you to get your fucking Zoom calls done without screaming in the background. And that's all it is. It's childcare. So they get to socialize. They obviously get the education stuff, but the education stuff they get everywhere. It's the same. So as long as they can read, write, communicate and all that sort of stuff. Now, our kids have traveled an insane amount. My daughter was on 55 flights before she was 1 year old.
Wow.
Which might be child abuse, I'm not sure. But, but the net result is we have two super confident kids. I mean, they get on an aeroplane now, they buzz the buzzer, they ask what toys they're getting for free, what the food is, can they have an orange juice, can they have this? I mean, they're just super confident. You can plonk them in any environment, and they will talk to anybody. They will do anything to get what they need for themselves. Whereas, I do see a lot of other kids hiding behind daddy's leg and peeking around and, super shy and all this kind of stuff. And ours are unstoppable. Has its good and bad points.
Strong characters.
But I think in the grand scheme of things, I prefer it that way around. And most of that has come from travel.
Right.
Most of that is because we'll go to a new hotel, they'll go in the kids club, they'll meet new kids, they'll have to play with new people. They're just immersed in these dynamic environments all the time.
I'm sure they watch you on Zoom calls and hear you speak as well, and so that's whichever way that's going into their subconscious or whatever, taking it in as well. Yeah. So just in closing, and look, you've got an immense amount of wisdom, right? If it was all going to go tomorrow. You've got kids now, or fast forward, you're no longer here. You've got to leave something behind for your kids, for your grandkids. What would be like the one most important thing that you think, if you could leave like one lesson, one sentence, one thing you could leave them with everything that you've understood about life, and you've had an incredible life, incredible, insights into business. What's the most important thing that you could leave in one thing? What would it be?
Yeah, just have fun. Find something that's fun and do more of it. Because I think if it's not fun, it's not worth doing. But yeah, it's got that. I mean, there's not one lesson, because I mean, there's if you look at things like your health, for example, you've got to prioritize health. I didn't when I was younger. I do now. And that's maybe a regret, something that I would want.
When did you start prioritizing health?
Probably like in my 30s.
Have you ever had any scares or
No, I just had a really unhealthy lifestyle. So yeah.
What was the impetus to turn it around?
Things. I actually bought a health club.
I might as well be healthy. I might as well be the brand.
So that was when I first got a personal trainer. Yeah, it was because I hired loads of personal trainers. So I bought a health club and spa in Hertfordshire, and that was when the first time I went to the gym, pretty much.
Really, yeah.
So, but you know, that health thing, I would say, you know, becomes a priority, and that, you know, that's just one area of life that could completely dominate your life, but everything is about balance. And then that relationship marriage thing is also a really big part of it, because you basically want somebody that's got your back, that adds value to your life, that is not a radiator, not a drain, and that's really, really important, you know, going forwards. And you, like I say, you need to keep investing in that. You need to keep doing that. The wealth stuff, I wish I'd known earlier. So I always thought wealth was zero sum, that you either invest in stuff or you spend it. And I think once you figure out some of the wealth stuff, there's a whole other conversation, but once you figure out the wealth stuff, I have this thing called escape velocity investing, which you can probably Google and find a video of me talking about it. Once you figure that out, then you realize you can kind of be fully invested and spend it. It's kind of like double accounting. And so that I wish I'd known younger. There's lots of things I bought. I bought Amazon right at the beginning and then sold it to go buy something else. And if I'd kept it, it would have been worth millions. And Bitcoin, same thing. I was Bitcoin mining in 2017. So there's a lot of wealth stuff that I wish I'd known earlier, but that's a whole other segment. Then the business stuff, you know, I had that rite of passage of entrepreneurship, which I wouldn't give for anything else, because it's taught me everything, you know, that it's who I am. But if I'd understood the kind of deal making and that stuff earlier on, it just would have been really interesting to see where that would have ended up.
So with your kids, do you talk about the rite of passage? Do you want them to earn the rite of passage, or would you leave them a huge inheritance?
No, so they need to have that rite of passage, but they at least get the chance to start a bit further down the track, maybe. But I don't think that's about money. I think it's about experience. So it's the lessons that you can give them that are going to accelerate their journey more than the money that you could give them. There is a tension between me and my wife over what we give them and what we don't.
She wants to give them a lot.
She's the tendency to give them everything, and that's
the woman, that's the nurturer.
I want to stick them in economy. She wants to stick them in first class, and they end up in business. So
it's a good compromise. It's exactly like a contract. You start to barter, right? You know, you go low, she goes high.
So recently, Emirates made it so that the kids can't sit on their own in business. So we have to book one business, one first, and then basically before takeoff we swap round. And because they're super confident, the crew never catch them. So they're in business and we're in first. So.
It's great. Jeremy, honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate it. I think you've just dropped some major pearls of wisdom. Super excited. Harbour Club, I'm going to be doing some research on it.
Cool.
I just really want to say thank you for being a guest on the show.
Thank you. No, thanks for having me.